Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Grey Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 3rd of December 2021. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So, just before I revealed the details, or the minting details for the Daily Gwei first anniversary NFT. Now, you guys saw this last week on the Refuel. I had the trailer that I played then, so you're all well aware of what this is and what it looks like. But you can see there's a proper kind of like still here on your screen of the actual NFT, which as I said, is of this room that I'm sitting in right now. And it's very detailed. I have a few preview images I'm going to go through. But yeah, the details are basically the minting will go live next week, December 6th at 2200 UTC. I believe that is early morning Australian time, I think 9 a.m. Australian time, afternoon US time, and late evening European time. So I tried to do it at a time where it suits kind of like every time zone, so everyone has a chance to get their hands on one of these things. But yeah. Speaking of that, there's 365 editions for 365 days since it is a 1-year anniversary NFT. The mint price is 0.07 ETH each, which I think at current price is just over $300 each. But we kind of like settled on that price because we wanted to be able to kind of like send as much money as possible to Ethereum core developers, and also not have the kind of like price be too cheap because there's only 365. We want to give the people that really want it a chance to kind of like buy into it. So, and as I mentioned last week as well, 80% of the proceeds are going to Ethereum core devs, while 20% goes to Kite for his amazing work creating this NFT. I mean, without him, this would never have happened. He has spent so much time on this. It's actually been amazing to watch it come together. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I've got a few preview images to show you for this NFT, so let's go through them all. So the first one is, as you can see, just a close-up of me holding an ETH, kind of like little ETH toy in my hand with the Daily Grey logo on my t-shirt there. I really like this caricature of me. I mean, it's really funny. The beard looks really cool, and then you got like the pronounced kind of like blushing going on and everything. I think it looks really cool. We actually added in the headphones because you notice I always wear headphones. We actually added in the headphones in the NFT in the latest render. You can actually see it in this picture here, but you can't see it here. But yeah, the final NFT will have the headphones in it. Then you can see we've got like a rug underneath my chair now with the ETHUB logo on it. So kind of like playing off the rug of the rug meme in crypto, and then the ETHUB logo because I'm a co-founder of ETHUB as well. It's the other educational stuff that I do. Some of you may listen to the podcast that Eric Connor and I do each week about Ethereum as well. Next preview is basically kind of like just of the right side of my desk, so where I'm sitting kind of like on the right, I have basically another monitor that I use for kind of like general web browsing and things like that, and then I have the little iPad here which usually watches kind of ultrasound.money. It's been off because the website doesn't work on mobile for some reason. I've been meaning to kind of try and fix that, but usually it's watching ETH being burned, and then I have my little to-do list here saying dance, because for those of you who don't know the context, back in January before ETH hit all-time high, I basically said if ETH hits all-time high this month being January, I will do a kind of like bull dance. And I never did that once ETH did hit all-time high in January. So people keep reminding me about it, but I thought that was a fun little Easter egg to include there. This one shows basically, the back of kind of like the NFT. Kind of you have the solar panels there with a bunch of piping running through it. Then you have like the t-shirts there. If you guys will notice, I wear kind of like the same kind of I guess like neutral colored shirts a lot of the time on the Refuel. Just a bunch that I cycle through. The gray, the blue, I guess like the yellowish color that you will have seen them today. I'm wearing the I guess like light purple color. But they don't have the Daily Grey logos on them. I need to get around to doing the Daily Grey merch, which should be coming soon as well, by the way. Next preview is of behind me. You can see the NFT frame that I've got there, and also this PC here. This is not my main PC. This is the staking PC. So my main PC sits to the left. This is my staking PC, where it's literally all it does is handle my validators. And as you can see in there's a picture of Vitalik holding the Lambo. That's the meme. You've got like a little kind of A86 model car in there. I just had that lying around, so I put it in there. I thought it was cool. And then the rest of the box there as well. And then you can see actually in the bottom right-hand corner, there's the Haiku book, which is actually a book that Kide worked on with another person, Crocodile. I think his name's Crocodile Man or something, on Reddit. And it's kind of like a book that's full of kind of haikus. So that sits in the corner here. You can see it in the video right now. And then you have, this sits behind the NFT. Unfortunately, I don't have this in real life. This is just something we included in there. But you can see here, it's like a little container with 30 ERC32 Ethernet representing staked ETH. So we thought that was just a cool little thing to kind of put there and represent a kind of like a validator. Next up, we have basically what I see in front of me. You guys never see this, but this is my kind of like view here. On the left hand side of me is Discord. In front of me is where kind of like I have the web browser that I go through when I'm doing the refuel, and then OBS sits next to it where I'm recording everything. And then above me, I have all the charts of various kind of various cryptos. Obviously, ETH is on there. You know, I monitor a bunch of others too. And then left here is my camera. Like right now, I'm pointing to it. That's my camera, and then above it, I have a light that kind of like illuminates myself there. So that's the part you'll never see. And then the top left here, actually, that's got the block native gas estimator tool, but that's actually the details about my validators. And then I have another monitor on the far left that is actually my validators running as well, which is included in the NFT too there. A couple more images to get through. These are the figurines. We actually got to include the figurines in the NFT because there's this really cool app on iOS called Polycam where you can actually scan the an object and basically take like lots of photos of it. Took like over 100 photos of each one of these figurines, and then it kind of like constructs it into a 3D object, which Kidder directly placed into the NFT. So it came out really, really well, and it looks really, really awesome on the NFT itself. So you'll see it, once the kind of like NFT goes live, you'll see it much closer up. But I'm glad we could get them in there because they're a kind of integral part of the space, right? They're everywhere around me, so really liked getting that in there. And then another Easter egg, me wearing Unisocks. Here, everyone knows Unisocks, right? The socks token that's worth a lot of money, I think, these days, and you can redeem them for physical Unisocks. Last couple of ones. This is just like a kind of like a fuel pump with the Daily Gwei on there, obviously playing off the Daily Gwei theme. That is kind of meant to power the whole kind of like battle station. Now, obviously, I don't have that in real life. It'd be really cool if I did, but that's just another Easter egg we threw in there. And then finally, there's Kidder, his kind of like character here, which is obviously a cat. That's sitting, I guess, like in the NFT, it's sitting behind this NFT frame there. So he always puts that in his NFTs, and I love that he did it with this one as well, because as I said, without him, this would never have become a thing, and it just came out so well, better than I ever dreamed. And as I said last week, this kind of like NFT means a lot to me because it immortalizes this room for me, because I'm moving out of this in like a few weeks. Like I'm not going to be here for very much longer, and you can already see I've started kind of like packing up things. Like this figurines are gone up there, and then down here a few of them are gone. And as I said last week, this is going to get a lot more sparse. So yeah, I'm really excited to kind of like for this to finally be live. But anyway, enough about the NFT. Those are all the details about it. I'll remind you guys again on next week's refill, of course, but definitely join the Discord channel, because I'm actually going to be sharing the minting link in the Discord channel before I share it on Twitter, because I want to give people in the Discord a chance to mint it before it's public. So if you're an active Discord participant, you'll see it in there as well. Anyway, on to the news from the last 24 hours now. So Vitalik posted a kind of like updated roadmap kind of diagram. Now, he's posted one of these before. I think it was quite a while ago, but he posted this kind of like updated one last night, which is a much more simplified version of what he posted last time. And I actually really like this one. So you can see, I'm gonna actually spend some time going through each of these parts here, because I know that a lot of you would like me to do that. So he split it up into basically 5 different sections about what's coming, and 2 different sections about what's kind of like already behind us. So on the consensus layer, what's already behind us is we launched the Beacon chain, we did the warm-up fork, which is Altair, and we have proof of stake light client friendliness now because of that. And then at the execution layer, we did refunds mostly removed, so those were the gas refunds. Initial gas costs updates were done, and EIP 1559 was implemented. Now, going through the kind of like 5 main future categories, the first one is the merge, right? This is what we're working on right now. This is basically what all the core devs and researchers are working on to be able to get it to kind of like production. And you can see here, each one of these little boxes has a kind of bunch of text in it, but also a progress bar. So the full merge specification is done. Now we're in the test network phase, and then as kind of like a parallel thing to that, we're doing the fork choice improvements, which has got to do with that vulnerability that was found that I spoke about a few weeks ago. Then that will lead to the merge, and that's no more proof of work. We're done. Merge is good. And then after that will be a post-merged hard fork that will enable withdrawals, say the 2 to 3 months after that, I think, as well there. And then you can see on the kind of like side here, he's got longer term extras as part of the merge, which is single secret leader election, which is something got to do with proof of stake, single slot confirmations, and better signature aggregation. Now, I guess the first thing is about halfway through. The other two are still early stages, but they are kind of like the extras that is going to come as part of the merge work or work around the merge. Then next category is the surge, which Vitalik's saying is the massive scalability increase for rollups through sharding, but also through this new AIP that I spoke about yesterday, 4488, which you can see here has been specced out. It's about three quarters of the way done there, which would lead to short-term call data expansion, which, as I explained yesterday, would lead to 5 times cheaper cost for rollups. Then you have basic sharding, which is a few shards going live. Probably, I would have to say it's probably going to be early 2023. It's probably not going to be next year. If they really push it, maybe it can be next year, but I doubt it. It's probably going to be 2023. And this will just be a few of those kind of like data shards that we're waiting for to increase kind of like scalability for rollups even more. And the base sharding specification is about just over halfway done. Vitalik says here. Then you have basic sharding with many shards. So a few shards will probably be like 4 or 5, maybe, I guess. Many shards would be tens of shards going out to that 64 that we want to get to. And then after that would be adding DAS or data availability sampling to protect against bad committees. Basically an enhanced security for sharding. And then you can see the longer term extras on the right hand side, which is still very, very early. Improvements to shard block proposers, staggered block times, and increased shard size and count. So that's all on the roadmap, but obviously early days there. Then the third category is the Verge, which is related to statelessness through Verkle trees or tries and related features. So you can see this goes through 3 major phases with 3 major hard forks, where you have basically a database and gas cost changes put through hard fork 1. You have introduction of Verkle trees to replace Merkle trees, and then you have a removal of Patricia trees as well. And then on the right-hand side, as part of the longer-term extras, you have snarked Verkle proofs and even better tree star cache, which is cryptography stuff. I'm not even going to kind of like bother trying to explain that because I don't understand the details. But as I've said before, statelessness is another roadmap item that is kind of like being worked on in parallel. Then there is the Purge, which is the 4th category here, which is eliminating historical data and technical debt. Now, this has got to do with an AIP that's been proposed. I think it's AIP quadruple 4 or something like that, about making it so that clients or kind of like full nodes don't have to store history more than 1 years old. Now, this is a bit contentious, but it's actually very much needed to enable kind of like Ethereum to keep growing and to keep kind of being healthy and sustainable going forward. And really, in the realistic sense, you don't actually need like a super long-term history, right? To at least validate the security of the chain and everything like that. But in saying that, you'll still want access to some of that data. So there will be kind of like third-party services that give you access to that data. And this kind of, I guess, talk about like what those third-party services are going to look like. Like, is it going to be services like the Graph? Is it going to be P2P networks like torrenting, other services like Etherscan, things like that, which it will be. But that's what the Purge is all about. And there's a lot in there. I'm not going to go over it all here. You can actually just Google any of these things and it'll come up with research on it. But the Purge is kind of like another major roadmap item there. And then you have the last one, which is called the Splurge, which is miscellaneous but important extras. So these are all things that the core devs and researchers want to get into the protocol, but it is not necessary for the Ethereum network to function and thrive. But some of these things include account abstraction, MEV mitigations, better censorship resistance under proof of stake, MEV smoothing, and ZK snarking everything, and other stuff like that, as I've talked about before. Now, you can go look at this. It'll be linked in the YouTube description, kind of like break it all down. As I said, you can go Google any of this sort of stuff. You'll come up with research on it. But I really like how Vitalik has categorized each of these. And the naming scheme is hilarious. The Merge, the Surge, the Verge, the Purge, the Splurge, right? It's just, I trust Vitalik to come up with something like this. But I think it just goes to show that Ethereum is not kind of like sitting in place. It is a constantly evolving protocol. There is a lot happening everywhere, but it's going to take longer than people would like for it to come to mainnet because of the fact that these are bleeding edge kind of like upgrades. These are things that have never been done before. Things that are going into a huge $500 billion network, and we need to kind of like do the scaling stuff first before we do the other stuff, because the most important stuff right now is obviously scaling Ethereum. That is by far the most important thing out of any of this sort of stuff, and the Merge plays into that as well, because without the Merge we can't get sharding, and obviously sharding plays into scaling. But the merge and the surge are the first two kind of like things there, because obviously the merge is critical for the all the reasons I've outlined, and the surge bringing more scalability to rollups is critical because we need rollups to be that user onboarding layer instead of layer one. So yeah, definitely go check out this kind of tweet here. And actually, I just remembered Vitalik linked to a bunch of different things already in the Twitter thread. You can see here some links, so you can definitely go check out all of them for further reading on this. All right, so Brantley from the ENS team has shared an Figma kind of like mock-up of sign-in with Ethereum buttons that anyone can use with the EIP 4361 standard at login.xyz. Pretty much a basic kind of like design here in black and white for sign-in with Ethereum that you can kind of put on your website and allow people to sign in with their Ethereum wallet. Now, I've spoken about this a lot in the past. I've covered login.xyz a lot. I think this is super cool. I think it's really cool that there's kind of I guess like a standard sign in with Ethereum button now, like you have a standard sign in with Facebook or log in with Facebook, and you know log in with email or whatever else there. It's good to have this, and I think making sign in with Ethereum ubiquitous across the web is actually going to be a huge marketing vehicle for Ethereum. So I really hope this kind of like catches on, and I think it will, because the login.xyz team is doing a lot of really great work around this. But great to see them making more progress on this sort of stuff. So Tim Byko published another all core devs update, this time covering Arrow Glacier, the Kintsugi, which is the merge effort, and the recently proposed EIP 4488. You can check this out right here. It's a blog post on Mirror yet again. There are links to all the relevant information and also a summary from Tim Byko himself. So if you want to learn all about, staying up to date with Kintsugi, as I've been updating you guys, you can kind of go here and you can learn about EIP 4488 or core data cost reduction from Tim Byko as well. And there's also, I think, a thread. Yeah, there's a bit of a thread here as well with links to more stuff. So that'll be linked in the YouTube description for you all to check out. So I think you guys would have seen this maybe a few days ago on Twitter, but Ross Ulbricht is raising money via NFTs for basically to donate it to, I think, wrongly imprisoned kind of like people. You can kind of see here that Pleaser DAO is actually launching the Free Ross DAO, which is an open community aimed at buying Ross Ulbricht's NFT collection and funding the mission to free Ross and fight for prison reform. So you can go to freerossdao.com to kind of like join this effort here. Now, for those of you who don't know, Pleaser DAO has been around for a little while. They basically started as a collective of people to bid on the first People Pleaser NFT, and they've been kind of like snatching up a bunch of rare NFTs over the past kind of like few months, I guess you could say. And now they're going after Ross Ulbricht, which I think is really cool, because there needs to, we'd love there to be a bidding war on these NFTs, because the more money that's raised, the more goes to prison reform, which is a huge issue in the US. The people who live in the US, you would know how big of an issue kind of like wrongful incarceration is in the US, and not just wrongful incarceration, but like the punishment not fitting the crime. Like in Ross's case, a lot of people argue that he's being unjustly punished with like multiple life sentences for running the kind of like Silk Road. Now, I'm not going to get into kind of like the whole arguments for and against there, but that's what people believe, right? But then there's a lot of kind of like cases like that in the US where a lot of people have been imprisoned for a long time over weed possession, which is kind of like really silly, because like weed is legal in a lot of states in the US now. So it's just this whole kind of mess, right? And it's not just those related offenses, but just like prisons in general. Like especially in the US, they have for-profit prisons and stuff like that. But if I go any further here, I'm going to get a bit political. But this is a political thing, right? This is not something that can be detached from politics, because this is basically Ross saying, "Hey, I want to raise money and donate it to prison reform because I believe that there's so many people hurting because of all this stuff." So yeah, if you're interested in getting involved, you can go to freerossdao.com, or you can check out this on a Twitter thread, which I'll link in the YouTube description for you below. So Euler announced the launch of their long-awaited testnet today. So you can go to this blog post here, check out all the information about their testnet, links to it, how to get kind of like testnet tokens. It's on Ropsten, and play around with it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Euler is a money market protocol, kind of like a new spin on it. They are trying to basically have, I guess, like do it in kind of like an algorithmic way where you can basically have permissionless listing of kind of money market pools and things like that. And it's a really exciting platform. I mean, disclosure here, I'm a Series A investor in this protocol, but the people working on it, absolutely amazing team, really know their stuff, know what they're doing, and the fact that the test nets are out to play with. I played around around today. It's really, really cool. You can go to, the testnet itself, which is at ropsten.euler.finance. All the links are in this kind of blog post here, and play around with it yourself. I mean, if I just load it up, I don't know if I'll be able to kind of connect because I think I'm on mainnet right now. But you can kind of like see here, basically, please connect to Ethereum Ropsten. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to see it here. But anyway, you can go there, get on Ropsten, get some tokens, and try out the testnet for yourself. All right, another thing I wanted to talk about today was that Polygon is hosting a Polygon ZK Day very, very soon. And there are going to be speakers there such as Vitalik and Paul Brody and a bunch of others that I mentioned the other day. Yeah, this is the kind of like thing that I mentioned the other day, but they've now landed Vitalik as a kind of like speaker. So you can register for this at polygonzk.ethglobal.com. Now, I wanted to echo kind of like what Mahalo said. He goes, we are honored to have Vitalik with us on this special day. He understood our vision and intention from the very beginning and has been supporting us in multiple ways. And he has. I mean, you guys know that I've been supporting Polygon for a very long time as an advisor, but it's really awesome to see someone like Vitalik kind of like support them as well, because Polygon has copped a lot of kind of heat over, I guess, like the course of this year, because people were kind of like saying, well, you've only got the POS chain, where are your L2s, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff. And now they have those things and people have kind of like shut up about it, which is funny. But I've always kind of like been saying to you guys, the Polygon ecosystem is so much more than the POS chain. They're doing so much work behind the scenes that you guys don't know about, but kind of like I know what they're doing. I kind of like, obviously pay very close attention to them. They really, really care about scaling Ethereum, and they've probably got one of the most powerful scaling kind of like ecosystems right now. And as I mentioned yesterday, they're investing a lot of money into ZK tech, but they're also doing optimistic rollups still. They're doing hybrids, they're doing side chains and standalone chains. They're doing everything. And it's not just kind of like fluff or theory. They have one of their ZK stuff, ZK things live, Polygon Hermes. They have Nightfall live, which is their hybrid ZK optimistic rollup. They have the POS chain live, which has an amazing amount of usage, by the way. I know it's not a quote-unquote true L2, but it's better than a sidechain. It's a commit chain. I mean, it's really cool, and it's given a lot of users a lot of kind of like value. And then they have like the Avail blockchain that they're building, the SDK, which is live. So much stuff going on. So very, very excited to see all that. But definitely register your interest at polygonzk.ethglobal.com to kind of I guess be part of Polygon's ZK Day, which is coming up soon. All right, this is related actually to what I was talking about before with Vitalik's Ethereum roadmap. The Graph put out a protocol today talking about historical Ethereum data access after EIP 4444, which, as I mentioned, is the EIP that he's got to do with the purge, which is eliminating historical data and technical debt for the Ethereum protocol. Now, the Graph's blog post here goes through how they can help to kind of like serve this data to users who need it, once it's expired, and kind of like why that is important to Ethereans and things like that. So definitely go read this blog post for more information on that. I should have talked about it before, but it's here now. It'll be linked in the YouTube description for you. All right, so an interesting tweet from Kane here today where he said, holy shit, I've had like 20 calls with potential optimistic Ethereum native projects this week, and all I can say is I should drop my calendar link on Twitter more often. We're going to make it to the L2 promised land. He is not the only one that's saying this, guys. Like, I talk to a lot of L2 people and a lot of L2 teams. They're all just like getting hit up like no tomorrow for these native deployments. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. It doesn't make sense for projects to natively deploy to L1 anymore, unless they're kind of like targeting the whales. Because if you deploy to L1, the only users really at this point in time is going to be the whales. The rest of the users are on L2 or kind of like on other chains or kind of like on the Polygon POS chain and things like that. And that's just going to keep happening. Like, we're not going to get new users to onboarding to L1 anymore. They're going to go straight to L2. So it's really awesome to see that all of these projects understand this and they're going to be natively launching on these L2s. There's plenty of these, right? Live, and there's plenty of these coming as well. I've seen a few of them already out in the wild. It's really, really humbling to see, because as I've said, I think 2022 is going to be the actual year of L2, like L2 adoption, because we actually have them live now, especially the generalized EVM platforms like Optimistic Ethereum and Arbitrum One, of course, but also a lot of the ZK stuff going live too. Starknet's live on on mainnet in alpha fashion. Polygon has Hermes and also Maiden coming soon as well, and they're working on zkVM stuff there. ZK Sync coming as well with ZK Porter. So much stuff. Like 2022 is going to be a big year for Ethereum scaling, and we have the merge coupled with that. We also have potentially that EIP to increase scalability for rollups as well. So I'm very much looking forward to 2022 as the year of layer 2, right? Like 3 2s in there. So it was a pretty funny coincidence right there. All right, speaking of ZK Sync, they announced today that they now have fiat on-ramps to ZK Sync enabled by Ramp Network. Now, you guys will know that you can use ZK Sync to donate on Gitcoin. So essentially what you can do right now is you can on-ramp via fiat with Ramp Network to ZK Sync and then donate on Gitcoin. No need to touch Ethereum layer 1 at all. How amazing is that? This is what I'm talking about, guys. This is the way, or the gway, as I should say. So, and a ZK address, as they say here, equals an Ethereum address. It's the same thing. So if you're just like exclusively on ZK Sync, it doesn't matter because you can always withdraw to layer 1 Ethereum. It always gets created on layer 1 Ethereum. And if you deposit $20 or more, that's the one-time account activation fee, and gas fees are paid in ERC20s, not just ETH, which is cool. Like ETH is obviously paid at the base layer to secure ZK Sync's rollup, but it is not required on the rollup itself because they abstract that away from the end user, which I thought was really, really cool. So you can go to go.ramp.network/ZK-Sync to get started onboarding here, but that's really, really, really awesome, and just in time for Gitcoin grants, matching round 12 as well. And speaking of ZK Sync as well, Kylan here has put together a dashboard for ZK Sync deposits. So besides some common statistics on deposits, users, and gas fees, you can also find the amount of ETH that people deposited, most, which ERC20 token accounts for the biggest part, and more. So you can see here that deposits on ZK Sync have been going up nicely and steadily on the chart. You can see all-time deposits, unique addresses, about 167,000 right now, which is quite amazing, I think, like already on kind of like this L2 here. Deposits by week. The funny thing is that I think there is definitely a lot of people farming airdrops of these sorts of things, but I think that's fine because people want, farming airdrops just leads to more adoption and whatever works. Like I actually love that people are farming airdrops and getting onto L2s because of that. It's just amazing to me. But you can see kind of like the breakdown here of deposits between tokens. So DAI is leading. Then you have USDC as a second and USDT as third. And you can see the breakdown of ETH deposits on over here. So 0.1 ETH or less is dominating at almost 80%. Then 0.1 to 0.5 ETH deposits at about 18%. And then you've got the long tail after that as well. So, it's definitely just benefiting the smaller users, right? Which is exactly what layer 2s need to be doing. Like the whales don't really care that much about getting onto L2, right? Like, unless they're farming something. The whales are happy sitting at layer 1. The gas fees are negligible to them. Like, if you're slinging around like 6-7 figures, then a few $100s in gas fees is not gonna matter to you, right? Whereas for most users, we aren't doing that. We aren't slinging around that much money all the time in regular kind of like users, especially if you're not a trader or kind of like doing arbitrage stuff. So layer 2s is definitely where you're gonna want to be, and we're seeing that play out right now. So cool little dashboard here, which you can check out further. Be linked in the YouTube description. And finally, I wanted to talk about the Badger exploit that happened, I think yesterday or the day before. I didn't talk about it on yesterday's refill because I was waiting for it to kind of like all shake out. But for those of you who don't know, what ended up happening was over $100 million got drained from the Badger protocol, Badger Finance protocol, which is a popular kind of like Bitcoin yield protocol. And the way this worked was that it wasn't actually drained via kind of like a smart contract exploit. It was drained by harvesting kind of like front end approval. So what happened was that an attacker was able to kind of inject their own kind of like code into the front end, which made it so that users were approving tokens for a contract that belonged to the attacker and didn't belong to Badger Finance. Now, this is, I guess, what you could consider a man-in-the-middle attack, as I've warned about before. I've told you guys about these man-in-the-middle attacks a lot. They don't just happen by injecting kind of like a malicious MetaMask transaction. They also happen by injecting themselves into the actual website that you're visiting and then throwing up a MetaMask transaction for you to sign. So it's kind of like a bit more involved, but it worked wonders because this attacker now got away with over $100 million worth of crypto, which sucks for a lot of the users, right? Like, I mean, most of the users, I think. But essentially what was happening was that people were approving token amounts for contracts, or to kind of like approving unlimited token amounts for contracts that they thought were Badger Finance but weren't, and then the attacker used that approval to drain everyone's wallet. Because how an approval works is that if you do infinite approve, so say you go to a smart contract, you say, okay, I give you infinite approval permission for all the wrapped ether in my ETH account. Now, if you have 10 wrapped ether in your account, that contract can, if it's kind of got a function to, can, and it has a centralized operator, can drain that 10 wrapped ETH out of your wallet anytime it wants to. It doesn't need you to sign a transaction because you've already signed the transaction, giving it permission to spend an infinite amount of your wrapped ETH. Scary, right? Definitely very scary. And this is why I've talked about before that you should definitely go to the different websites that allow you to revoke permissions from contracts and do that, especially if you're not using the contracts anymore, and just practice good hygiene as well with approvals. And that brings me to this thread from CryptoCat here, where he says, with the latest Badger exploit, let's talk about MetaMask approval hygiene. And it's got about 7 tweets here talking about how you can protect yourself against these kinds of attacks. So I'm not going to go through the whole thread. It'll be linked in the YouTube description for you to check out. But essentially, it comes down to just knowing what you're, approving and signing. Like always, I've spoken about this a lot, guys, and I can't stress it enough. I know it's easy just to kind of like automatically trust something, especially something that you visit regularly. But the Badger Finance front end was kind of exploited through. I think what ended up happening was there was an API key on Cloudflare that got compromised, which allowed the attacker to inject this kind of like malicious contract approval kind of like script into the front end, and then it kind of came up for users. The Badger Finance team didn't know about it until it was too late, unfortunately. So the best way to protect yourself is knowing what you're approving, knowing what you're signing, and also a few other tips in here from CryptoCat, which I'll let you read by reading the thread in the YouTube description. But I think on that note, it's going to be it for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give that video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all next week. Thanks everyone.